Hey, well, my name is Les Friend. I'm 76 years old. I moved to the Chilcotin in February of 1976. I lived here now 42 years, I believe. I'm an AA member. I quit drinking 44 years ago. After 2 years in Vancouver, I realized I wanted to live in the country and do some wild shit, and I'm out here now. And I've hunted and trapped and done everything, climbed mountains, hiked everywhere around here that you can think of, and also worked here for years, fought forest fires for 27 years. And that's about all that I can say right now. The rest is up to the questioner to ask me questions.
Well, thanks for that great introduction, Les. I do appreciate it. What specifically brought you to the Chilcotin region?
The first time I came here, I came with the guy that was my accountant of my business I had in Vancouver. He told me there's a good fishing out here. He used to work at the air base when it was here. And we came out and went to Bluff Lake, and the first day I went fishing there, I caught a 5.5 pounder, and I knew I was never going to leave. And the other guy that was with me, well, he drank a lot, so we came to Puncie because this is where the bootleggers were, and he got some more booze, and I met a guy, and his name was Tom. And I ended up buying from the ministry, actually it was from the church, a house in Puncie for $1,000 on an acre of land. It was all caved in. And I started practicing my carpentry skills, and I rebuilt the house. And that was basic. I stayed went back to Vancouver and worked in the winters, and then I'd come up and spend the summer here a couple of months because my company could be run by my foreman. They looked after it. And for 2 years, and then I moved up here in February, which was a bad mistake because everything I had was soaking wet, and when I got here it was frozen, and I couldn't get it off of the trailer. And cold, 35 below, I think it was when I got here. It was a bad time to move, but I survived. three fires going full bore in the house all night, just and sleeping right on the floor beside the fire. God, it was cold in there. Hadn't had time to put any furnishings in or nothing. By the time I got here, it was nighttime, dark. And that's about that. And it was because I wanted to learn to hunt. Well, I hunted all my life, but hunt. I knew the moose were here. I knew the deer were here. I knew the fish were here. I knew the wilderness was here. And I love trapping and hunting, so it was not very difficult to decide to grab a bag of pot and head north. When I moved here, I was a bachelor. Well, I was divorced. So I started off, I went out, used to go out with a school teacher from the Puncie school for a while, and then I met Kathy, who was the love of my life. And we got married and raised our family. She was the most awesome girl. I love trapping, so she came with me out on the trap line, and any woman that's going to go with an old fuck like me out in the middle of the wilderness, I ain't letting her get away. She had no idea whether she was going to come home or whatever, but she followed me everywhere I went. So put a ring on her finger, and we started popping out babies, and it was wonderful, wonderful life we had together. Unfortunately, she died of lung cancer. So that part is over. And forest fire burned the house down. She got to see it finished, nearly finished, but never completely finished. I'm still finishing it. And well, some shit went bad, but things are turning around and starting to go in the right direction again.
You guys put a lot of work in together in your first house where you raised the boys, eh?
Oh yeah, no, she helped me build that whole thing. She was scared of heights, and when we were up 35 feet off the ground doing roof rafters and stuff, she had more balls, that woman, than most men do. She would get up and she would help. Yeah, she would help with everything. She would never cower, but she would never do it on her own, scared to death. I told her, just concentrate on what you're doing and don't think about it, and you'll be fine, and she was. But being a woman, she made me change a lot of stuff. I fell behind probably about 6 months on the house because I'd build something and she'd say, oh no, I want it over there. Do it that way. So I would do it that way. Oh no, I liked it better the way you had it. So I'd turn around and put it back. That happened more than once. And because the company I owned, I did a lot of decorating and engineering and designing. So I kind of knew where I was going, and I couldn't explain to her because Kathy was one of those people that unless she's seen it finished, she had no visions of what it was going to end up looking like. I would draw pictures and it would be close, and yeah, I like that. Like when I did all the stairwells and stuff, she okayed all of that stuff, but she wanted a bathroom upstairs in the wrong place because it would screw up the skylights and shit like that. And I tried to explain, oh, well, that'll be fine. And I says, no, the toilet's going to be here. When I sit on the toilet, I can look out the skylight and I can see the birds and the trees over there when I'm having my morning crap. And that's how I built the place. It's designed for comfort.
How many years did you work on that house over in Puncie
14.
Street?
Oh, in Puncie Street?
Yes.
Oh, no, that was 2 years, I guess.
And you guys, how long were you actually on location on Puncie Street?
Well, I probably stayed there for 10 years. About 10 years, maybe.
And it was during that time you purchased this lot over
Yep.
here and you began working on
Yes.
the previous house.
Yeah.
Can you just share with us some of the craftsmanship and work that actually went into the house, because it was a work of art down to the single tiles, to the steam bent banisters and all the wood. Because you did score a bunch of old fir, I think, or cedar.
I bought 40 dead fir trees from the Ministry of Environment, and then I logged them, and then I had Sam and Dame and Cernhill bring their sawmill out here. And then I sawed it. I made a list of everything that I wanted for the house, the house was 3,800 square feet. So I had them saw all my beams, about 12 by 12s. And then, and 28 feet long was the longest one. But by changing the shape of the house, I could make the whole house out of solid beams. Once they were all sawn, I banded them all, and I left them for 2 years before I started building the house. All the aspen trees, when I cleared the area here, I sawed the aspen trees into 3 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I banded all of those and dried them. Those were used for the chopping block style floor that I built. Once they dried, I cut them all 3/4 of an inch off the ends and squared them, and then made 3 by 6 inch tiles, but end grain chopping block, and glued them all to the floor. It had triple pane windows, and I put a geothermal heating system in, which I found a guy, and I think he was in Valemont, that was just learning geothermal, and I said, well, come on down, I'll pay for everything, let's put one in this house. And he came, and we did. I got in first permission from the Ministry of Environment. I put a semi-artificial reef in the lake that's got all of the piping and stuff inside, all plastic, thick wall, special stuff that doesn't rot, lasts forever. And I put the geothermal system in. I watched that for a while, and I was amazed at how many fish actually really went in there, because they could get away from the otters and the ducks and anything else. All the little guys were swimming around there all the time. They loved it. So it worked out quite well for somebody changing nature. And whether it's for the better or for the worse, don't matter. Make more food for somebody. But
did you have a part to play with the electrical in that first house too?
Yep.
Because I do believe once upon a time you told me a bit of a story on how you got your ticket.
I took night school for 2 years to become an electrician, and I passed my schooling, but in order to get a license, I would have had to do, I think it was 2 years of apprenticeship. And when I went into Williams Lake, the only way I could do 2 years of apprenticeship was move to Williams Lake, and I didn't do that. So, but I could legally still wire my own houses, so I wired all my own houses, not this one, but the other two. I wired them all, and they all passed. So, with the inspections, so it was.
Well, evidently your wiring prowess is up to speed because you haven't burnt any of your houses down yet.
No.
But you have been involved in the forestry, the fire forestry industry for a very long time.
Yeah.
Can we go back and touch on when that actually started?
I can't, 27 years, from 65, I've been 40, 40, I was working out there, 32, 33. About when I was 35 or 36 years old, maybe 35, I think, I met Kathy. And she came from Ontario with a forestry guy, and she was working in the resort where I was working, and I met Tom Gajowski, and I asked him about a job in Tatla Lake. There was the Forest Service had a big compound there. And he says, yeah, I got a job for you if you want it. And I says, yeah. So I went to work at the Chilco Lookout. I worked Chilco Lookout for 7 years. My best year I caught was 113 fires I spotted in 1 year. That was the most. But I don't know how many fires altogether, but there were lots. And when I wasn't in the lookout, I was cleaning campgrounds and painting picnic tables and just enjoying life. All what I always wanted to do, I finally got to do, rather than roaring up and down streets in downtown Vancouver trying to find stuff to keep my men busy and make my company go. It seemed like it took forever, but that's after my first wife and I divorced. That's when I turned out to be an alcoholic, and I was drunk for about 4 years maybe, straight pretty well. And then I came out here and I became a human being again. Well, I did it down there because I went to AA meetings 2-3 times a week for 2 years before I moved here, because there's none of that stuff out here. You do it on your own. I figured by then I'd learned enough. I don't want to drink no more, so here I am, 44 years later, and still not drinking.
Congratulations on that, brother. You know how impressed I am with that, because I know far too many people that have serious issues with alcoholism.
Well, alcohol's a bad thing for you.
It is.
Yeah.
I had the benefit, I guess it's almost 8 years ago now, who had worked with you briefly at Ducks Unlimited.
Yeah.
How long were you with Ducks Unlimited?
Probably 35 years. I used to work my 8-hour shift at the tanker base, and then it was only a 6-month-a-year contract, and the rest of the time I worked for Ducks Unlimited and on weekends, and because my shift started in the summertime, it started always so late. I'd get up like at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was getting daylight, and I'd go to work for Ducks till I had to go to my shift, and my shift usually wasn't till noon, from noon until 7 o'clock on in the summer, so I could do 2 shifts in a day. But working for Ducks and walking ditches for hours with my dog, I don't really call work. So it was just good exercise in the morning before I went to the base and waited for tankers. or fought fires, whatever I was going to do that day. But yeah, there was, learned, I got a lot of good experience and got to practice, because I started my first year university as a civil engineer, and of course, ducks, a lot of duck stuff is engineering. I built 5 dams for them, 2 80 feet long and 3 45-footers, which I find is like a feather in my cap, because they're still there. They never flooded out and washed away, so I did something correct. Well, I knew if I didn't, people could die. So one of the 180-foot dam, there was 2 ranch houses not far down the hill, and if that let go, there was a whole lake to follow it down. So, but that did that. Yeah, and over the years, I managed to do some pretty interesting stuff. I got in the Firefighters Hall of Fame. I managed to get my name in there for loading tankers. I loaded 48 tankers in one day by myself. 12 hours without shutting down the pumps and stuff, just kept going.
What was that award called? The Silver Knot?
No, it was, oh, now that I want to think, Rope Award, ROPE, yeah.
I remember it was on the wall of your office.
Yeah.
In the old house.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. One of the very few non-Forest Service personnel that ever won it. Most of it has always been won by people that work for the government. So that was pretty cool.
How long did you folks have your trap line for?
Well, I had it right till 20 years.
Because you've only sold it in the last few years, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I had it at least 20 years, yeah.
What's it like being on the trap line? I couldn't even imagine it personally.
Well, it's very secluded. We lived in a 13 by 13 foot cabin, 5 miles in the bush, on a little road that I had a Jeep, and I chain it up all the way around to get in there. And we'd have to stop and walk across a creek, but it was always frozen. To get to the cabin, it was on the other side, and there were no bridges. So there was a little narrow walk bridge, but as soon as it snowed and the water backed up, it got buried. Then we lived there for a few years. Then we moved to a ranch, a deserted ranch that was closer to the highway, about a mile off of the highway, and we lived there for a couple of years. And then I lived at the old mill, so the mill was deserted, and they still had the scale cabin there, and I lived in the cabin for a while. And I lived in a campground there in the wall tent for a couple of winters. That was pretty exciting. I made a few mistakes, but when I built put the wall tent up, I put hay all around it to keep warm, and not thinking that moose like to eat hay, that in the middle of the night, my tent got caved in a couple of times. Moose tried to get at the hay and knocking down my tent. Well, finally I put big enough ropes and stuff on it to keep it that it wasn't going to cave in anymore, but they gradually ate all my insulation. And I lived at Don Brecknock's hunting camp 2 years in a row, I guess. 2 years I lived up there. Yeah, so I guess if you add it all up, I lived up there probably 20 winters, maybe around 20.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, did lots of walking.
You know what else is impressive about you? You also told me that once upon a time you were part of the crew that helped clear the actual highway that exists now, because up until the 80s it was just a gravel road out here?
It was it was a gravel road. Came from, there was no pavement from Sheep Creek Bridge out here. And I cleared the road. I didn't clear the road, but I helped clear the power line to put the electricity from the highway up here to Puncie Lake. There was, I just helped clean it. The roughing had already been done, and I just went along and helped clean up the mess after. all the trails that are here. I built all of the cross-country ski trails and hiking trails and horse trails that are here. Me and 4 other people. There was 5 of us that did it. And we did all of those. That's pretty well all. I did work on all of the resorts here, and I've done lots of stuff over the years, but it's too much to name. Like, how do you put in 40 years into a little interview? My sin bin, my man cave. This is where I play. And when it's 20 below or 40 below or really cold, I sit in the corner there, smoke a joint, and relax in here and try to figure out what to do with all my wood supply. I have all of the parts and stuff here for chrome rims and all of this stuff up above. Here is for a Bronco that I'm restoring. And this is about it. The pump and everything for flooding the rink, which I'm going to probably do either later today or tomorrow morning. No, tomorrow I got to go to town. I go to my AA meeting tomorrow. All my scraps, I'm building bird houses and bat cages, and I just do what I do when I feel like it. It's makes things interesting. And especially when I leave it half like this. Now I don't even know which piece goes where. But I will figure it out. It's a lot of property to look after, but it's pretty cool. There's my my new thing to fix is my Bronco. And the rest of the parts are in the storage shed there. And that's Xena. That's Xena, my bear dog. She's running over to where her buddy, Psycho the cat's buried. Psyche's home is.
That was the last day that I saw Kathy.
When she died? When Psyche passed away?
Yeah, I came over to visit you guys that day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And there's the garden that was always in the wrong spot. My wife. As we walked down here and I spray painted the ground to be sure I put it in the right spot. She went to work. She came back and I had the garden finished and she said, "You didn't put it where I told you to." I says, "Well," I says, "it's pretty hard to make a mistake." She says, "No, she wanted it that way 3 feet and turned the other way a little bit." And, okay. That's what you want. I didn't change it. She kept saying she was going to change it, but she didn't. She was pretty stubborn lady, but not that stubborn.
Kathy was a whole lot of awesome.
Oh, she was. I'm just doing my Christmas tree lights. I gotta buy a bunch to burn out. There's a whole string of them burnt out. I'm getting it ready for Christmas. Yeah. And the skating rink. The fun thing. Kathy skated in one day. Well, I used to make the trail zigzagged all the way over to the weed bed there and then zigzag back. And it was exactly 1 kilometer long. And one year she skated from here to about Winnipeg in mileage when she figured it all out. And so now most of this stuff I do is just a continuation of how I lived before. Watch your stuff. See, I got a couple of little spots. A little hole there. Air bubble. I should actually watch your step, my friend. I skated around it the other day and it was just great, but I missed the spot here. See, I gotta flood this. See the little ridges? You can see.
Do you still have your Zamboni?
No, quad bony.
Quad bony.
No, it burnt in the fire. So, this is, it is actually pretty cool. I gotta buy a hockey stick when I go to town tomorrow. And a puck. It should be fun. Feels pretty good, eh?
That's pretty damn good. I've got a certain friend of mine that's going to be appreciating this very soon.
Oh, here comes Jordy and his dog. Jordy helped me on the first flooding. Oh, here. Take your camera and go down close to one of these. These come out, air bubbles coming up. If you go zoom right in on it and look at the structure, they're gorgeous. They're beautiful. Eh?
Yeah, pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So that's being pushed out of the lake through...
It's being pushed up, yeah. From the little bit of vapor coming up and freezing, and it's creating these, they look like flowers. Yeah. Very neat. See if you feel right here?
Here's a little divot.
A little bump, yeah. And there's another one. Little tiny. This one isn't tiny. I don't know what causes it. Jordy.
Any words of wisdom to close out this little installment of Chilcotin Stories, my friend?
Yeah, live. Enjoy life. Live. And have as much fun as you can while you can, because the time will come. All of us are going to go to the same place, and then when I'm gone, my spirit is going to come back and haunt the fuck right out of you. Because I won't be able to smoke pot. And it's your fault.
Well, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I don't know anything else to add.